Don't be afraid to change how you do business, the ways you do business. You don't lose your L&D-ness by becoming more like the business. Think of it as that maybe you're going to influence the business to become more like L&D, and really focus in on workforce development as a priority. So just really embrace the change that's coming. The sooner we learn to roll with the punches and get back up, the better we will be in this very volatile and ever-changing business environment. But I absolutely have faith that all those folks who are saying L&D won't exist in 10 years are full of shenanigans, and I will be happy to be around to prove them wrong.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are and wherever you're watching from. I'm Matt Pierce, host of Visual Lounge. Today, we're going to be talking about something I think is really interesting. Like, the world is changing pretty quickly. And imagine if you had to start over and L&D, learning development, had to start from scratch. What would we do differently? We're going to talk about that with our guest, Tracie Cantu. So let me go ahead and introduce Tracie and we'll jump into our conversation. Tracie Cantu is Chief Learning Strategist at Your CLO and is a recognized authority in learning operations and technology. With 2 decades of experience leading L&D transformation at organizations like Meta, Atlassian, and Whole Food Market, she helps companies modernize their learning functions, scale impact, and align with business priorities. Tracie brings a sharp focus on strategy, systems, and execution. She helps L&D teams scale their impact, deliver business value, and operate like a strategic business function. I also mentioned that Tracie is part of our TechSmith Training Advisory Board, which we're so grateful for her participation. And I'd like to welcome Tracie to the Visual Lounge. Hi, Tracie.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Matt. Glad to be here.
Oh, it's always great to talk with you. We're going to jump in with our first question we'd like to ask everybody. What's one tip that you would give about using images and video in their work?
Compression. Don't assume your learner's bandwidth on the receiving end of learning. That's one of the things coming from a learning technology background, and having variety of people anywhere from DSL to broadband. You have to meet the learners where they are. So compress your videos and images as best as possible.
Yeah, I remember if Sam Rogers, for anyone that knows Sam, would always talk about, just the idea if you're getting out to a branch of some bank or credit union and you can't, is it really accessible to someone if they can't open a file?
Yep, indeed.
Yeah. Well, Tracie, I want to go on this journey because let's say, is the L&D civilization has collapsed and we have to rebuild? Is that maybe the premise today? I want to start like, okay, so let's lay that as a foundation. If we're having to start, like, how would we even start to begin to imagine what we would need to do and not need to do?
It's one of the things that fascinates me. It's like, what if we got to build L&D from scratch? And what I'm about to say is controversial, but we have too many instructional designers. We have turned into a content publishing profession versus a learning and development profession. Now, y'all who are listening to this, I am not saying that we are lacking in quality and the rigor of instructional design. I am just saying that 8,000 pieces of content in your L&D catalog, probably 2% is being used. Let's be honest about it. So if it was me and I was like, all right, where do we need to go? I would think we need to stop hiring for deliverables and start hiring for impact, scalability, thinking 3 to 5 years ahead. Some of the things, like, one of the things I really wish we could embrace more is L&D business partners. I think HR has really gotten that down well, where there's an embedded strategic partner in like work verticals. And they really help and stay aligned with the operations of each team, know what's going on, can really do that kind of Kathy Moore assessment on the fly, I think, of like, does this really need to be training or is this a performance conversation with your middle managers? It's a performance conversation. They need to have the courage to have difficult conversations. We can help with difficult conversation training, but we can't make them do it. I think that would be a really great use because that would really help us, as we always say, like bring us in at the beginning of conversations, not at the end. I always joke, I'm like, if you bring me in at the beginning, I can enable your dreams. If you bring me in at the end, I have the miserable task of being a dream killer. And I do not want to be a dream killer. I want to enable every department's dreams. And so I think an L&D business partner would really help with that. And then I think we need to borrow a page from marketing, development, engineering, and we need to get operations. We need to bring operations and tech into L&D as a profession. We do a lot of rinse and repeat work. We do a lot of things that require process, from intake to governance to storyboards to output, how we determine ROI, and we don't have a team that helps manage that. Even if it's just like one or two people, there's some great software out there working towards really enabling L&D teams to do that, and I absolutely love that. But I think we need to expand that profession. And then I'd say the last two roles, if I was building from scratch, is I'd invest in technical writers and knowledge managers because of AI. You knew it was coming in this conversation. We can't have anything without it. They who control the information control the AI. So if you have knowledge managers who are continually maintaining the hygiene of your information that's going into these large language models, training your internal AI, and technical writers who can take the most complicated things and turn it into IKEA instructions that anybody can build an entire kitchen cabinet set. I'm like, those are the things that I really think we need as L&D business partners, a learning ops and tech field, and then knowledge managers and technical writers if I was building from scratch. And yes, I would trade out some instructional design headcount to do that.
Yeah, no, and I love that. So one thing that one of the first things you said that really caught me was that, and I see this even in the content that as a company we create, right? Like, but that there's 2% of it that is the most used, and then there's that thing that's 10,000 pages in that maybe one person has seen in the last couple of years, right? So as we're thinking through this, because I'm thinking about like, I love these roles and I love the structure that you're building, right? Because there's a lot that I want to touch on, so I'm kind of trying to figure out where do we go here, because there's a lot here. So let's look at this maybe a little bit higher level from an organization standpoint, and I'm thinking about a couple things. There's organizations that are big that I think you could start to build out a team like this, and then there's the smaller. They got maybe 2-3 people teams. This feels like, oh my gosh, how would we ever do something like this? Even just the idea of adding a knowledge manager or technical writer to do some of the stuff with the AI, which I think you're absolutely right. So let's say that you've got the big company, like I know you've worked at a lot of large organizations that can scale, and then you've got we'll call them the mom and pop shop that's like 2 or 3 people on that learning team. What would be different for the small kind of viewpoint?
For the small yet mighty L&D teams, I think it starts by asking smarter questions. They can embrace the themes of all those roles into what they do. I'm finding more and more as like I dive into stuff. Everything starts with the intake. Are we asking the right questions at the beginning of the process with our stakeholders? They could ask, like, think like a learning business partner and be like, what KPI is this aligned with the organization? Who's the executive sponsor? And then they can go, okay, we have 7 projects. Let's stack rank them based off of, like, do we have a measurement strategy for it? Do we have an executive sponsor? Is it aligned with a KPI? Just kind of creating a rubric around that. And that's something too that inspires a lot of credibility amongst the organization because you're very transparent. You're like, here's how we're ranking things. And you can go in and have trade-off conversations. Like you can bring all your business partners in and be like, okay, in order for us to meet the Q1 deadline for these two projects, which of these other seven do we need to take off? And if they're like none of them, who has budget to allow me to hire a contractor to get it across? Like it's not yes and it's not no. It's yes if. And that is a very powerful statement. Yes, I can do this if we give me an extra 30 days to deliver this package. If we hire a 60-day contractor who can do such like that. So really kind of, and this is where learning ops comes in, where they can embrace that, is lean into process. I know we are a creative profession, but nothing has to be, you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. Like that one always gets me. I'm like, rinse and repeat. There are certain processes that we could do that we can just rinse and repeat, and it helps us scale. Like we can do things faster and more reliable, and we can report back like, hey, this normally takes us 6 weeks for this level of project because we have these 7 steps that we follow. If I was your stakeholder and you could tell me an exact timeline and the why and the process, and I could actually follow it out, I'd be like, okay, I know how to do business with you. I know how to like back you into my project plans. So I think the small and mighty teams can really start doing that by embracing process and asking smarter questions in their intake that allow them to then have strategic conversations with their stakeholders about prioritization, trade-offs, and potential like contract headcount or headcount growth needs from there.
Well, first of all, I love the yes if statement. I've heard a lot of yes ands and well, don't say no, but I love that. Like it makes a lot of sense to me that you can say yes. There's these contingencies that matter, right? Like I need to either
Yeah.
have more manpower, I need to have more time, I need to have budget, I need whatever it might be, the resources to be able to do that. We can of course do it, but it's going to expand depending on the needs. So first of all, I just want to say I love that, and I think there's a whole big conversation we could probably have about that. But I want to follow up on the second part of what you just said though, which was this idea that like the process. And I'll be honest, I'm one of those people who I struggle following process because I get lazy and I just want to do things. That's my own realization. But if you were to give advice on what processes you think are most repeatable, from your experience, what have you seen and where you get like kind of the biggest bang for the buck? Because I do think there's a lot of people who will say like, oh, well, it's going to be custom every time. But I know that's not true. I know you're exactly right. But I'd love to hear what you think are like, hey, these are the areas you would focus first in this new world of scalable, repeatable, like do those things. So that way, maybe you need less people or you need less instructional designers. You can afford to have tech writer or operations person or tech person, whatever it might be.
Yeah, intake is a big one. And also too, I want to back up for a minute, and I think of process not as bureaucracy, but more like the bumpers on a bowling alley lane. No matter what decision you make, you're going to hit a pin. You go in the right direction. So you're not off track. You're not going to have to back up, start over, go a different direction. So it really helps align like that. So a good intake. One thing I will say is don't make that form so long. Have a basic entry level one, and then have a personal interview where your team has the form to fill out and go through. Have clear milestones like, hey, when we build a project for you, um, these are the 3 steps that we take. Like we're going to do a basic text-based storyboard if we're doing content for you. Then we're going to go in, so that's your alpha. Then we're going to go into a beta phase, and it's going to have images and graphic suggestions. Then we're going to go into gold, and this is the last time you can edit. Like any edits after this point will cause an extension of the timeline, and we restart. And then we go to platinum, which is publish sign off, and have sign offs for stuff like that. I think those are kind of like road mapping a timeline for intake and then what to expect. And I know people be like, well, every project's different. And I push back. Would you accept that from your SME? We would drill down. We're great at drilling down to the essence of something. So just really figure out and ballpark. Carl Kopp and Robin DeFelice did a great how long does it take to build training that ATD put out last year. And consider those your SLAs if you're not measuring yourself right now. Be like, a job aid at this level could take anywhere from 8 to 12 hours. Go up to the max of it, whatever. But it helps you tell your business partner, like, hey, this is what you're asking for is going to take about 70 hours to build. I could actually build you a job aid in a video in 30 hours and meet the deadline. Would you like that? So having intake with SLAs and a basic overall project roadmap helps out a lot. And I know a lot of people are like, what if they make us stick to the 12 hours? Then give them 12 hours worth of work.
Right.
Like perfection is the enemy of progress here. And then something too is I always talk about a service catalog. What do you actually offer? Like, what do you do? And that's one of the things, like, marketing is really good about telling you what services they can provide. A product manager in IT can provide you with like a list of what services they provide. We're a little like, well, what do you want? And that's too broad, especially for people who don't know, whose real experience with education is through the K through 12 and university system. And those are not applicable to the workforce. Best training I ever did was a telenovela compliance module. I didn't make it. I attended it and I loved it. It was on data security. It was built like a telenovela. It was beautiful trash TV, and I learned so much from it. Um, and I would never have thought that possible, but like that L&D team did, and they went through it. But have a catalog of what you're capable of doing. Like we can do job aids within X number of time. We can do, this is what a level one. And that is another thing too, I want to say is don't speak L&D to the business. Speak USA Today. This is one where I find AI is beautiful for, is I will go in and I will speak in all my jargon. And then I will say, I need to tell this to folks who have no background in L&D in language that matches the style of USA Today. Go. I have gotten so many compliments on my emails and my little slides where I'm talking to like business partners, where I'm trying to explain like why we have to do X, Y, and Z. And they're like, that was so clear. I understand that. Thank you. Okay. And I get a decision. Meet them where they are. So going back, intake, SLAs, and having kind of a service catalog. And start small. Don't be afraid to start small. And just make sure you iterate through, because you can always expand. It's only when you contract that people feel pain.
Yeah. Well, I love that, and I think your point about the AI and using it to help get from kind of jargony, L&D talk to kind of USA Today is great. One of the things that I'm thinking about as you're talking through this, and I love all these ideas. I'm already thinking about how I can steal them, and I do not sit in an L&D team. I sit actually in a marketing team, thinking, okay, how do I steal these? But I'm curious about what other skills. So if I'm a kind of coming into this world right now, or I've been in L&D for 15 years. I'm sitting there. The world's like it is changing around us, right? We see a lot of economic issues, things like that. People, companies contracting. L&D is always one that's on the block. But what skills should I be focused on and specifically to if I want to be part of kind of this new world that you're describing? Now, obviously, not all organizations are going to be at that point, but like getting ready, what should someone like me or someone who's listening to this be doing, kind of boning up on, so that we can be better to be prepared for whatever's coming next and we're going to do?
I think as a profession, we've been done a disservice academically because we don't sit in MBA land. Like, we sit in education. We need greater business acumen. You need to be able to look at the P&L and understand it. You don't need to be able to explain it, but you need to be able to go like, Oh, I understand. Like where the direction we're at. Oh, we're having a bad quarter. Oh, how can I impact this? What are the things that I could do? Start thinking like a consultant because you understand the business. A lot of us may have accidentally come into L&D, but it's usually very early in our career because we started writing job aids for coworkers and they just found us and put us in training. Um, but we have to have a good operational understanding. We have to be able to understand the KPIs, and that comes with business acumen. And also, everybody will talk about performance consulting, but I almost think it has to be, and I'm going to get this wrong because I don't know actually where they sit in the world of consulting, but consulting like Deloitte and Ernest Young and McKinsey, like that kind of consulting mindset where you're really looking at the big picture, the spider web of the business and understanding dependencies. And that is not something that comes naturally. That is something you have to practice and look at. Um, I totally recommend that one, you can go on YouTube, LinkedIn Learning, wherever. There's great business. TikTok has great business learning through there. You just get up to the speed on that. But to start understanding dependencies, start going to different parts of the business that you don't do it anywhere related to any projects you have going on and go, what keeps you up at night? What's going on? What are your team's goals? What are you worried about that like you might not make? Like, what are some things like, and if there's one thing I could do to help you, what is it? Just go there to serve them in the conversation and then come out and you'll have all these conversations and you'll start to see like, oh, Daniel in finance is looking to expand their Salesforce training. And Rebecca in marketing has just purchased some stuff out of what is that Trailhead? Yeah, Trailhead out of Salesforce Academy. They've added some more content in there. I need to connect those two. That's also a great L&D skill because that's business consulting. That's business acumen because you are combining the power, or you see that three people have a very similar problem, and maybe if I get software X and we bring those three in as stakeholders who can help share in the expenditure and pilot it, we can see stuff like that. So, like those are some of the things I would say as L&D professionals today train up on business acumen and then really start to learn the dependencies and the workings of the company. Once again, comes back to asking smart questions.
Yeah, which I find a lot of our L&D folks, friends, are really good about asking smart questions.
Very much so, which it always boggles me. I'm like, we love chatting. We love asking questions. Like, how are we not already doing this and just being like, hey, got a
Yep.
question for you. How could I help? Because that's what it takes. You got to start networking to understand the dependencies of the org.
Yeah. Well, Tracie, as we get close to finishing up here, is there anything that you haven't been able to share with us yet on this idea that you'd want to share with the audience?
I really want our profession to. I find our profession so impactful and so critical. We are, as Mr. Rogers says, the helpers. Like that's why we all come into this. Like we love helping people grow. We love making people successful. And my challenge is to all of our profession, how do we do that at economies of speed that still maintain reliability and quality? How can we scale our impact? And that's just like I don't have all the answers for that. I wish I did. Like I would be a guru and a thought leader for that. Uh, but I throw that challenge out to our profession because I think collectively we can solve that problem and then share as we always do amongst ourselves to make everybody successful. But that's really where I think I just want to stress we need to work towards and really grow at because that's what's going to make us indispensable in the future.
Yeah, put us in a position where as much as we hear about AI, what it can do, it's the things that it can't do that we need to be aligned and making sure we're
Yep.
pushing forward. So, well, Tracie, I love where the conversation went and I'm grateful for it. But we're going to jump into our speed round now. So these are quick, fast answers
Okay.
to quick, fast questions determined by the roll of dice. So here we go. All right. The dice cam is, if I can push the button hard enough. There we go. I'm off just, I don't know what happened. It moved just a little bit, but here we go. First roll of the die. Question number 3 for you is, what's one piece of advice you wish you could give your younger self? So think back to younger Tracie. What would you say to younger Tracie?
Bravado gets you a lot farther than you think. Do it.
I love it. I love it. I'm not even going to ask you to explain because I love it so much. So let's go on to our next question. We said these are quick, fast answers to quick, fast questions. So, okay, question number 2. If you could travel anywhere in the world right now, where would you go and why?
Oh my God, this is so hard because, y'all, I was a European history major as a kid, but um, Korea, South Korea. Um, I just really enjoy what I've learned of Korean culture. I want to learn more. And Asia is also one of those things where I know is my blind spot. And Korea is also kind of like, in my mind, the technological hub of innovation in the world. So yeah, I would hit all my ADHD sparklies in Korea, in South Korea.
I love it. I love it. Okay, one more question here. We can't have the same question, so I'm going to roll it again. Ooh, question number 12. Okay, what's one go-to tool that helps you get your job done on a regular basis? Now, this could be, I want to be clear about tool. It could be software, it could be hardware, it could be something, it could be, take that broadly. So is there a tool that you, is your go-to?
It is really bougie, and I will admit I never would have bought it for myself. But when we had those like build your remote desk funds back during COVID, I bought it, and that's the remarkable notepad that has the feel. I absolutely love that thing because one, I have an addiction to office supplies, so it has helped curb that. But also in one fell little notebook here, I have 47 notebooks and I can access them on my phone. I can access them on my desktop. I can write. And um, yeah, and to the point where my daughter stole my older version one, and I was like, oh, I can do without. I lasted 3 weeks before I paid for it myself. And it is a very expensive, bougie piece of tech, but it is one that has hit a sweet spot that I cannot live without now.
Well, I love it. I will, full transparency, I have just entered into the world of an e-ink device. It's not remarkable. It's a Supernote Manta. I've had it for a week. And so far, I'm loving not having a paper all over my desk and notes that I can't
Yeah.
find. So I'm with you. Well, Tracie, this has been just a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much. I love the future thinking. I love the kind of organizational thoughts that you've had. If people want to connect with you more, whether on this topic or other things, how can they reach out to you and why should they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, you can find me on LinkedIn. I am there, always willing to connect. Please drop a note that you're connecting from this podcast so I know. But also, you can go to yourclo.net. That is my consulting firm's website. Sign up for the newsletter because, spoiler alert, there is a book coming out in the spring called Running L&D Like a Business through ATD Press that will be coming out. That has been an exciting journey. But I also love sharing freebies, and there's some good free downloads on the website as well as some blog posts. So, love your feedback. Love to see if you're able to use those. And also reach out. I specialize in helping L&D's teams run themselves like a business, really optimizing and tightening alignment so that way you can scale your impact without scaling headcount. So, yeah. And also just hit me up for a cup of virtual coffee. I'm always there.
Yeah. Well, you're always so great to listen to and so if anyone's at a conference at Tracie, go take the opportunity to go listen to her, learn from her. Well, Tracie, again, fantastic conversation. We like to wrap up the show the same way every time with our final take. So Tracie, what is your final take?
Don't be afraid to change how you do business, the ways you do business. You don't lose your L&D-ness by becoming more like the business. Think of it as that maybe you're going to influence the business to become more like L&D, and really focus in on workforce development as a priority. So just really embrace the change that's coming. As we were talking about earlier, the sooner we learn to roll with the punches and get back up, the better we will be in this very volatile and ever-changing business environment. But I absolutely have faith that all those folks who are saying L&D won't exist in 10 years are full of shenanigans, and I will be happy to be around to prove them wrong.
I love it. All right, Tracie. Well, thank you so much for joining me in the Visual Lounge.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. All right, everybody. Think about this. I mean, the opportunity to change has never been greater. With all the things happening and changing around us, all the opportunities are there. But are you going to be the one that steps up and says, hey, we can do this better. We can make things that are better. We can do less content, but we can maybe organize better in a way to solve better problems, bigger problems. I love what Tracie's saying. I love when I come away from a conversation. I feel like I've got a list of things to do and to start thinking about, and which is always powerful. So, but that's what we hope you get out of the show. Of course, we'd love to hear your feedback. We'd love to hear from you at the Visual Lounge at TechSmith.com. Find us on social media. We'd love to have if you want to follow us on LinkedIn, we're over there too. We've got its own page. Get notified and see some of the clips from the show. Otherwise, what we hope from you is that you're thinking, you're learning, you're growing, and you take a little time to level up every single day. Thanks, everybody.